Well, they've been hammering Donald Trump for the last 2 or 3 weeks and saying that he is soft on Russia. He's given away concessions. They printed guest editorials. And in response to that, Vance tried to clarify it and say, we're willing to look at anything that's plausible. And then the Wall Street Journal then took those words and said, aha, now he's not a MAGA Jacksonian isolationist. He agrees with us that he's willing to use military force. And he didn't say that. And so they were trying to goad him into saying something along the neoconservative idea that we're going to get directly involved in Ukraine. And he didn't say that, but they wanted him to say that. And they thought they tricked him into saying it by formally criticizing him that he'd been too isolationist. So he was trying to say, I'm not an isolationist and I'm not an interventionist. I'm exploring that. And they felt they had a coup. They thought, well, after calling him an isolationist and that the whole Trump team, we finally goaded him into saying that he's considering military force, blah, blah, blah. And that was an unfair representation of what he was saying.
Right. Anytime you see JD Vance when he has these kind of hostile interviews, it's almost like a master class because he knows exactly what he's saying. So the fact that his words were twisted to make it seem like President Trump is some sort of authoritarian, right, a dictator that wants to take over the world and send U.S. troops into harm's way. What do you think about that? What is the agenda here? Why are they trying to do this to this administration?
Well, because the Wall Street Journal and the people that agree with it they think they can defeat Russia, and they think they can get back the Donbass and the Crimea, and they think they can do that only if the United States gets more heavily involved, or that Ukraine becomes NATO. And we've got to remember, it was not the policy of Barack Obama's administration nor Joe Biden's to militarily take back the Donbass. They never said they could, or the Crimea. Everybody knows that. So all JD Vance is saying is, all of you people in the past said, we can't get back Crimea, we can't get back Donbass. It's not wise to put Ukraine and NATO and make them under our nuclear shield, so to speak. So let's get realistic. And then they said, well, you know, he's selling out Ukraine, he's talking to Putin. And then it went right back into the old Donald Trump. It's an asset of Putin. You know, if you read the left today or yesterday, he's a puppet. He's Russian. We're right back to Russian collusion, Russian disinformation, all of that stuff for the last decade. And that was part of the agenda of the left, to portray Donald Trump as a sap who was going to give away Ukraine. And there was no evidence that he was going to do that. And so they don't know what to do with JD Vance, because every time he talks, he's much more articulate, much more analytical than the people interviewing him.
What do you think about Zelensky saying that Trump is the key to bringing peace and to ending this war? I mean, where's Joe Biden been all this time?
Well, Joe Biden had no strategy. It was just to give Ukraine enough weapons not to win, but to lose 11 million people who have left the country. They're down from 41 million to 28 million, and they're in a basket case. And he knows, whether he likes it or not, the only country that can pressure Russia is the United States. The only country that has the economic and military wherewithal to pressure the Europeans to step up is the United States. And they're not stepping up. They're not still. We got 10 or 12 nations that haven't met their 2%.
Mr. Hanson, I don't mean to cut you off, sir.
That's okay.
Let's take a listen into the Munich conference right now, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
To prepare the plan, how to stop Putin and finish the war. We want peace very much, but we need real security guarantees, and we will continue our meetings and our work, and we will be very happy to see General Kalak also in Ukraine in this closest time. Thank you, Vice President, for meeting. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you all.
Take care, guys. How does this move forward if Ukraine is not ready to come to the table with Putin? If Ukraine is not ready to speak with Putin at the table, how do you move forward? Will you still negotiate?
Well, look, I think the way that this conversation moves us forward is, first of all, you have great members of the Ukrainian delegation. You have our incredible Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, here. We have General Kellogg. It's important for us to get together and start to have the conversations that are going to be necessary to bring this thing to a close. That's all I'm going to say for now, because I want to preserve the optionality here from the negotiators and our respective teams to bring this thing to a responsible close. Thank you all, and have a good night.
What is the timeline of this